Hello, my little Luxes. Welcome back to another episode of Scary Stories My Father Told Me. And I'm your host, cosplayer charsieluxxx. And today I am dressed as my original character, Crystal, the anti-love demon. And I am this way to help celebrate this month's theme of Happy Vengeful Valentine's Day. So on my main YouTube channel for charsieluxxx, I like to follow different kinds of themes, and so this month's theme is all about revenge and anti-Valentines, anti-love type ideas. So I am going to keep pulling those same themes happening on my main channel to this channel here. And it also helps that if I have a certain cosplay and a certain look as well, I can just pull it through the same exact feeling. What are some of the most popular stories out there? Is stories of tragic love and revenge. So on my main channel, I am covering several different horror movies that are about revenge and very upsetting and unfortunate love stories with very unhappy endings. So please come and join me, come gather around the campfire, and come hear another original tale done by yours truly. In a small Midwest town lived two girls who had been friends for several years. They had first become friends in grade school, and these girls, Tara and Stacy, they had been in the same class their entire life, but they had never been close to one another. But because of fate, they ended up at this friend's birthday party. And while they were there, they discovered that they both had a love for ghost stories. And late at night, for this birthday slumber party, Tara and Stacy decided to share scary stories with one another. While the rest of the girls were all scared and petrified and didn't want to be around the two weirdos that loved the supernatural, Tara and Stacy had become close friends because of this. But unfortunately, as soon as they hit 16, Tara started to go on a rebellious streak. And partly because of her parents. Her parents started getting it in their head that Tara was messing up and that she was sneaking out at night, and they thought that she was misbehaving in these weird random ways. To the point that Tara finally got this personality of, well, they already think that I do, so I might as well just do it. And no matter how supportive her best friend Stacy wanted to be, and she wanted to be there for her friend and to kind of be a good influence for her, she realized that no matter what she said, Tara was going to do whatever Tara wanted to do. And she knew that things were only going to get worse when she got her brand new boyfriend Travis. Travis started to introduce her to several other bad habits. Tara started smoking, she started drinking, and she even started doing drugs, and she was sneaking out late at night. Stacy, over time, started to distance herself from her friend because she realized there wasn't much she could do. But on one summer night, Tara had reached out to her friend and had told her, "I miss you, I miss our horror nights." So she had invited Stacy to come stay the night with her, and that they would do their usual like they used to do, and stay up late and watch horror movies. Elated and excited, Stacy, of course, wanted to go over to her friend's house. And late that night, they were set up and they were watching a movie, but she noticed that Tara seemed very distracted. She kept looking at her watch, to the point where Stacy finally asked her, "Hey, what is going on? You seem really distracted tonight. Every time I've brought up a subject to talk about, you just don't even seem like you're interested." So Tara finally makes a confession, and while whispering to her friend, she tells her, "When my parents go to bed, we're sneaking out, and we're going down to the local park, and my boyfriend Travis is going to meet us. He's picking us up, and we're going to go hang out at his house tonight." Well, Stacy, completely upset with her friend, was like, "I thought this was the plan, that we were going to hang out and watch horror movies." Tara right away gets defensive and flat out says, well, I want to see my boyfriend tonight, so you can either come along with me or you can just stay here by yourself. Well, Stacy decides to just shrug her shoulders and is like, well, I don't really want my friend sneaking out by herself, so she makes the dumb decision that she's going to follow her friend sneaking out. Now, for most teenagers, you would think if they were sneaking out that they would just use their car because they are old enough to drive. Well, because of Tara's rebellious streak, her parents had started taking her keys at night and they would hide them because they had caught their daughter sneaking around at night. So because they didn't trust her, this is one of their punishments that they had. So late at night, it was around midnight, Tara and Stacy had realized that everybody in the household had finally gone to bed. And while it was completely dark, they snuck down to the basement because this was Tara's little trick. She didn't have to use the front door because her parents had a safety lock on there. But she knew that if she went and used the cellar door down in the basement, that her parents would never hear or notice her leaving. So that is the way that the two young teenagers had snuck out of Tara's house. And they made their way to the backyard and followed the fence line until they had gotten to the local park. Sure enough, Stacy had noticed that Travis was sitting there and he was in his red pickup truck. Once the girls were in the truck with him and they started heading away, Tara instantly had noticed that Travis had turned in the wrong direction for his house. And he quickly explained to her that they were actually going to go to his friend John's house and that he was having a party at his place. And he figured that they would rather do that instead. Stacy is instantly upset. She has absolutely no interest in sneaking out and being here with just Tara and Travis, and now to find out that he was taking them to a party, she was completely uncomfortable and not okay with this idea. She kept trying to poke at her friend Tara, but she just kept ignoring her friend, to the point they finally got to John's house, and instantly Stacy started noticing something strange. There were no extra cars around the house. So when she was asking Travis this question, he just kind of made it seem like, oh, well, you know, they parked elsewhere because we can't make it look like there's a big party going on somewhere in the middle of town. That would make it suspicious and the cops would show up. Well, as soon as they get in the house, instantly Stacy realizes that Travis has been lying to them because the only people that were there were John and Dan, and they were just in the living room playing video games. So there wasn't a party going on. But once they were there, John had offered the girls some drinks. Tara instantly had taken a beer, but Stacy had declined any alcohol, so she had asked if she could have some water. Well, now that they were there as a group, they all decided, hey, let's sit around and watch a movie. So they find a movie and they put it on. It's just a silly little comedy, and Stacy's still feeling kind of uncomfortable because everybody around her is now drinking. She already didn't want to be here, and she barely knew John and Dan as it was. And the movie had only been playing for about 20 minutes when Tara and Travis had decided that they wanted to go into the kitchen and get some more drinks. So they had disappeared, and after a while, Stacy had realized that it had been quite a bit of time and neither one of them had come back. Well, Stacy had kind of just shrugged it off and had realized, oh, duh, Tara and Travis had just snuck to the bag and that they were probably just making out and fooling around. But at the same time, Stacy then realizing that she's alone with a couple of guys from her class that she didn't really know and she just felt awkward and uncomfortable. So she's watching this silly comedy with them and just realizing that more and more time is going by. And it's not until the movie's end credits come on is when Travis and Tara finally come back. Instantly, Stacy realizes that something is off. Tara seems out of it. She doesn't seem like herself. And it's just little subtle things that Stacy could just pick up. And she instantly starts asking her friend, hey, what's wrong? Not even being able to answer for herself, Travis comes in and says she's just fine. Stacy, completely upset about this, says, I'm not asking you, I'm asking my friend. Tara just kind of looks at her and says, yeah, everything's perfectly fine. But Stacy, getting up and really close to her friend, starts to realize that there are strange marks on her friend, and that some of her clothes is even torn. So Stacy keeps poking questions at her. Travis finally decides to blow up and starts yelling at Stacy and tells her, "You want to know what's wrong? I just dumped your best friend. She's a fucking terrible girlfriend and I want nothing to do with her. And I want you and your dumbasses to get out of this house." So this finally gets Tara to snap out of it, and she looks at Travis and she flat out says, "Wait, you're not going to drop us off?" And he flat out tells her, "No, you can go take care of yourself and you can find your own way home." So Stacy, kind of pleading, looks at John and Dan to see if maybe one of them would be willing to take them home. But John just shakes his head and says, "I'm sorry, it's past curfew. I won't chance driving you back home." So now it is about 2 a.m, and Tara and Stacy have to sneak all the way across town, and they find themselves running from alley to alley and trying to quietly get by building to building, trying to make sure that nobody notices them, because the last thing they needed to do was to get caught. But on the way back to Tara's house, Stacy finally starts poking questions at Tara, and in a very sympathetic way, she starts asking her what happened. Tara finally breaks down and cries to her friend and tells her what Travis had done. And that obviously when they went to the kitchen to get some drinks and that Travis took her to a side room to make out with her. And Tara said the next thing she knew, he pinned her down and he took advantage of her. And without her consent, she felt completely ashamed and broken. Stacy, wanting to be sympathetic to her friend, held on to her and told her none of this was your fault. But Tara kept blaming herself for what had happened. So once Tara had finally calmed down, the girls made the rest of the way back to Tara's house. In the dark, they made their way through the backyard and found the cellar doors. So of course, they slowly snuck back in and made their way back to Tara's bedroom. Once they were there, the girls laid down for the rest of the night. But in the silence, Stacy could hear her friend cry herself to sleep. The next morning felt incredibly awful. It felt like they didn't get a wink of sleep. But they had to get up when the rest of the family did to have breakfast, to make it look like nothing had happened. And as far as they could tell, the family had no idea that they had snuck out that night. But while they were all gathered around the table having breakfast, there was a knock at the front door. Tara's father had gotten up and went to see who it was. After a while, he finally came back, and he made his way to Tara, and he gave her the biggest hug he could possibly give her. When Tara had finally asked what was wrong, he had explained to her and said that Travis had been found that morning and that he had killed himself, and that he had left a suicide note explaining that he felt incredibly guilty for what he had done to Tara and that he could not live with himself anymore. Obviously, this had completely devastated Tara. She had wept and finally told them everything that had happened, and her parents very calmly explained to her that none of this was her fault. After Tara had finally calmed down, Tara's parents had asked Stacy if she could make her way home, that they wanted to just have a private moment with their family while this situation was going on. Stacy gave her best friend the biggest hug she possibly could and told her, "I am here for you for whatever you need, and if you need me, I will be here." After Stacy had made her way back home, she realized that she was there by herself. Using that opportunity, she had taken her overnight bag and she had made her way to the back of the barn. Her and her family lived out in the country, and they didn't have a neighbor next door to them, so she knew she wouldn't be seen. Reaching into her duffel bag, she removed a black garbage bag. Inside it, one could see that it was the clothes that she had worn the night before, but they were completely saturated in blood. Stacy had taken the bag of bloody clothes and had thrown it into the burning barrel, lighting it all on fire and letting the flames take over. But she knew in her heart that Travis would never hurt another soul, and she knew that no matter what, she would be there for her friend, and that she would gladly take this secret to the grave with her. really hope you enjoyed that scary story. Obviously, since this was another one that was done by me, I would love your feedback as well, because I'm still learning and exploring and just trying to feel out how I feel about short stories. And I've even mentioned before that I am trying to finally work on one of my novels, and that me and my friend Joel have been pushing each other and giving each other motivation to work together, and that we are concentrating on our art and working on novels. Anyway, like I said, I would love to hear your feedback and everything. I would love for you to come and join me on my main YouTube channel for charsieluxxx. And I have several other social media outlets that I would love for you to come and join me on there as well. I will have links to them in the description down below. And if you would like to help me out just a little bit more, please come support me on my Patreon. And you can see on the screen above a shout out to all my Patreon members, and thank you so much for joining me. And without your help, I am unable to continue doing what I love and being able to explore my art and my creativity, so thank you so much. And I am the afterlife of the party, but I would love for you to come and join me in the afterlife of the party. And always remember to slay, subscribe, like, and always be yourself. And remember to love yourself. Self-love is the best love you can ever give yourself. Even through this month of anti-love and anti-Valentines, please make sure you still take care of yourself and love yourself. Until next time, my little Luxes, have a Luxy Charms kind of day. Bye!